This is Messages from the Universe with Laurie Wondra of Your Life Core. Here, Laurie delivers information from the Mastery Realms related to astrology, planetary influences, energy surges, and generally how we are evolving. She connects with angels, guides, ascended masters, astro beings, and those that come forward with messages to help us on our journey. Welcome, everyone, to Messages from the Universe podcast.
Hello, I am Laurie Wondra, and thank you for listening. Today I want to talk about retrograde season and what that means for us and what it means for the energy that we're in right now. First, a little foundation. What does retrograde mean? Retrograde means having or being motion in a direction that's contrary to the general motion of similar objects. And we talk about planets being in retrograde. It means that some of those planets are moving in a direction opposite or contrary to other rotating planets. Now, planets really don't go backwards. They really stay stationary, and other planets continue to move and rotate. And right now, we have a large group of planets that are retrograde. We have Saturn and Neptune that are retrograde in Pisces. Pluto remains retrograde, and it sits right on the 29th degree of Capricorn and Aquarius. Chiron is retrograde, and Mercury is retrograde. And then we've got dwarf planets, Eris and Ceres, that are also retrograde. We go through retrograde season every year, but depending on where the planets are and what astrology sign they're landing in can have an overall impact to us. Now, Pluto has a rotation of 248 years, so it doesn't move between signs very often, where Mercury does move and we experience a retrograde 3 or 4 times every year. So today, as I talk about these retrogrades, I want to talk about them as to how they're impacting us right now. The inner planets, such as Mercury, Mars, Venus, the Sun, and the Moon, all impact us personally. They have more of an internal impact to us. They impact or affect us more personally. The outer planets, Uranus, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, Neptune, those are all external planets. They're out further away from us, so therefore they impact more of the environment, situations, events, and how we respond to those external events. They still have an impact on us, but they have an impact on larger scale or larger collective energies. So as we talk today about the planets that are in retrograde season, we're going to talk about how the energy of those, both internal and external, are impacting us. So my first question is, do external events create internal changes, or do internal changes create external events? Or perhaps it's a cycle with a continuum for change. Perhaps it's both. Teachers of the universe say stop thinking linear and one step at a time, as humans can take many steps in all directions at any given time. Have you ever done something that you really didn't want to do, or it didn't feel right, but you did it anyway? Your physical body maybe did something that your emotional field or your mental body were somewhere else. You weren't aligned. And some would say that the earth mirrors our internal vibration, that the events that Mother Earth is experiencing is actually what's happening within us. What we experience and see in the world is what we are experiencing internal. Volcanoes, fires, tornadoes, storms, that might be what we're experiencing internally. Growth, seasons, that might be what we're also experiencing internally. What we see externally is what's happening internally. On that thought stream, an external world of chaos or lack would mirror an internal being that experiences chaos and lack. It gives us something to ponder. On the continuum cycle of change, an external event can happen that creates an internal shift for alignment. Alignment with our mental field, which is our beliefs and our mental processes. Alignment with our emotional senses. That would be how we feel about something. There is always a need to become aligned. So the external event can be the catalyst for us to change our vibration to align with it. If an internal event occurs, does our external environment respond to align to us? Now that's an interesting thought. As we are experiencing internal, let's say, chaos or lack, does Mother Earth respond to that? I believe external events create internal shift, but we gravitate to vibrations that are more comfortable for where we are right now. So, if an external shift creates something uncomfortable, we tend to move away from it. If we deem it to be too much work, unhealthy, or we might even feel fearful of it. There are times where in the world of shift, our senses are muddled or dampened, less so that we can move through the shift. The energy right now is very heavy. We're experiencing heavy Pisces energy, which makes us feel things muted, muddled, unclear. Now, Pisces can show and represent our fears, where we are on our spiritual journey or our dreams. Pisces is dreamy or thought to be more fluid and not fixed. But Pisces allows us to go deep and be sensitive. And there are times we must go there. Pisces is incredibly creative and compassionate, though sometimes aloof as the internal processes are happening. Pisces can also be not clear, and that would include how we feel about something. Confusion, muddled, muted. In other words, it might be a time that our compasses are off or not strong. And some of you might be feeling that. You're not sure where your emotions are. You're not sure of what you think or how you're processing. Last week, maybe as we focused on the Lion's Gate of 8-8, we had this background of Mercury moving into retrograde into Virgo. Mercury is going to be retrograde until the end of the month, the end of August. And I would say now is not the time to make snap decisions. Mercury is about communication. It's about travel. It can be about contracts. It can be about technology. I always say if something has the potential in technology to break, it will break during a Mercury retrograde. If there's a potential for communication to become muddled or muted, it will during Mercury retrograde. Virgo is a very analytical sign. And so Mercury being retrograde in Virgo might be that we're not analyzing everything as clear. We might have a tendency to skim or skip over the details. So I'm not saying you can't travel or you can't sign a contract or you can't do something with technology, but just be aware. There's more potential during this time for those things to bubble up. I always say Mercury gets a bad rap during this time. There is nothing wrong with retrograde season. I should also add that retrograde season is purposefully coordinated, I believe, by the universe to force us or to create the situation for us to go internal so that we can take all the external things that we have been experiencing or that are experiencing and look at them internally or how they impact us. It's a time for us to tap into our higher self, that peace that is contemplative. And with Mercury being retrograde, it's just a little bit harder to analyze anything. We just need more time. Another planet that is retrograde is Pluto. And Pluto remains retrograde, sitting at 29 degrees, really on the line with Capricorn and Aquarius. And any time a planet is sitting on that line, it has a stronger impact as it's ready to make a change. A fellow healer recently shared his insights on this, and that the Sabian symbol for Pluto's position is about secret meetings of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. Now this brings some illumination to what might be happening around the globe. Closed-door meetings, decisions may be happening behind the scenes. We saw this with recent moves of the United States political arena, but I think it's bigger than this. I believe there are other meetings of the angels, the energetic beings of the universe, and of course of astral tribes that are watching, guiding, helping, and having those meetings. In places where the future is impacted, there are decisions happening that are formulating a future. There are mature decisions happening that have an impact and direction. And this is a time about responsibility and social impact. Pluto is about death and rebirth, and we can focus on the death or the sadness of something ending, but an ending can also be a good thing where something is ending and something new can be rebirthed. I also find that it's interesting that we have the Olympics happening now in 2024 in Paris, and all the events and those news stories that are happening there with all these magnificent athletes that are there competing. But it's also making us more socially aware of what is needed across the globe. Now, Pluto, sitting on that line of Capricorn, we know the energy of Capricorn is worker energy. Get it done. It's a force to get things done and use what we know, use our gifts. And if we don't have those gifts or don't know how to use them, then figure it out. That's the magic time of the Olympics right now. These gifted athletes using their gifts, using their skill and years of training. Pluto goes direct October 11th, but it will stay in Capricorn until the end of November, actually November 19th. And at that time, it will move into Aquarius, and it will stay in Aquarius for the next 20 years. And Aquarius is innovation and technology, and we can see that in the explosion of AI. I believe that we'll see some magnificent inventions and other things coming out of the technology world. And given that November of 2024 is an election year for the United States, this could also mean more advances or issues with technology around the election. Pluto continues to push old to leave and ignite something new to enter. It will require courage that we lean into something new and different rather than reverting to a continued pattern of something old, something outdated. That will be our challenge, but it also will be our opportunity, and it will be up to us to decide what we are birthing. Now, I mentioned the dwarf planet Ceres, and that orbits between Mars and Jupiter, and it has been retrograde in Capricorn since May 14th of 2024, and it goes direct on August 26th of 2024. We don't talk about Ceres much, but her retrograde provides the opportunities to bring up issues of professionalism, earning power, imposter syndrome, deservingness, self-sufficiency, adulthood and retirement, and future security and financial responsibility. It's been a disruptive energy in many areas, and now that some decisions have been made as she goes direct the end of August, we may find that we don't like those decisions, but we do have direction. When I reflect back to the messages of the past, where information was more about the feminine energy coming into the planet, those messages, I can go back to the year 2000, where we were talking about and celebrating the movement into the overall number 2 with the year 2000. In spiritual context, the number 2 often symbolizes duality, balance, and partnership. It reminds us of the interconnectedness of opposites, such as light and dark, or yin and yang. And at that time, myself and many other channelers were getting messages of the incoming rays of light that would help bring more compassion, more love, more balance for all, not just women or the feminine energy, but also men, and the feminine energy brought in for all, balancing of the masculine and the feminine energy for all humans, bringing us back into alignment of our natural state of just being. And as we moved into 2020, we felt this strange surge of energy that was bringing even more light and love and compassion to all. And celebrating that 2020, that vision, things needed to break to move away. Policies, rules, governance, things that didn't allow balance and it would allow a healthier way for all to be. We knew, and we still know, there's more light entering now, more than ever, to balance the dark, the yin and the yang. But I don't believe we anticipated the turmoil and the work that it's required. There are more light runners and light leaders, light workers, now more than ever. They're raising their hands to carry the light and to move it forward. And that's exciting. Recently, I did a podcast on the topic of, am I a light worker? You can refer back to that for more information. As we go forward, Saturn and Neptune right now are retrograde in Pisces. Saturn retrograde in Pisces began June 29th, and it goes forward on November 15th. And Saturn is showing us the shadow, the underside of things, the dark, showing us where we need to be more disciplined, where we have more responsibilities, where we need more light, more love. Saturn shows us how we experience our reality and where we might hold resistance or where we have our limitations. We don't like to be limited. We don't like to feel restrained. This energy, Saturn energy, is about judgments. It's about rules and laws and what we choose to believe and obey. And those things that are happening external, because Saturn and Neptune are external planets, are causing us to bounce up or bump up against our mental processes, our beliefs, those things that we believe to guide our life, and to shine light upon where there is misalignment. Neptune's watery energy is our imagination. In retrograde, we tend to not look at situations clearly. We fill in missing pieces, sometimes with fear or certainly history of our past experiences. It's also a time to open doors to mystical experiences and explore the possibility of what is beyond what we thought to be true. Neptune stays in this retrograde position until December 7th of this year. And sitting in Pisces, this continues the in-depth energy, and it pushes us to go internal more, to heal past imbalances, to seek ways that are out of balance because we can now see that they're out of balance. But it's a choice to choose what we want to balance, where we want to place our light. Now, Pisces' symbol in the zodiac cycle is two koi, swimming in opposite directions, yin and yang, duality, balance, learning to live in that balance, and sometimes feeling as if we are swimming in circles, sometimes confused and wanting to throw in the towel, quit, stop. But our human energy is about persistence and survival and making things right and figuring it out. As Saturn and Neptune go direct later this year, after being in retrograde for a duration of time, it creates this perfect environment for us to go deep, to go internal. And as much as we might want to seek what's happening external and look to the world for external reasons and external advice, now is the time to tap into our internal, our wisdom, our higher self. The external world is simply there to create the situation and events for us to then internalize and decide what is the best way forward for us. What's the best way forward for us personally? Continue with an imbalance or develop processes, policies, and ways of living that bring more balance, more light to everyday living, bring more happiness and joy. These two planets going direct after this lengthy time of being retrograde will give us time to look at the world in a new way, and also will give us the opportunity to interact with the world in a new way. If we have changed our internal processes, our beliefs, and our compass, have we developed and explored compassion? Have we looked within our own personal humanity, our presence in living? Internal changes can and will be shared externally. And as earlier discussed, if not aligned with the external vibration of the world, we could feel a clash or a shift. Will we be strong to hold the energy that is alignment, balance, harmony, and peace? Will we allow a healthy contrast between the natural balance of masculine and feminine energy without trying to control one or the other? The masculine energy does not have to conquer or overpower the feminine energy. Yet in so many cases, it appears that the masculine energy is wanting to fight, to win, and control versus living a balanced and aligned life. And Chiron. Well, Chiron is the wounded warrior. Chiron also remains retrograde in Aries. That's the I am energy, the identity of who we are. And it remains retrograde until the end of December. It will then remain in Aries until June 19th of 2026, where then it moves into Taurus. It's been in Aries since February of 2019, so we've had years to reflect internally and respond to what is happening externally. We've had years to experience retrograde seasons. We've had years to experience external events and adjustments to our mental processes and adjustments to our emotional compass. We've had years to understand, to heal, and live differently. We are shifting. I can't say it any other way, but a new version of you is being birthed. And your awakening process contributes to what human being you are birthing. What have you chosen to heal? And where may you have chosen to create more wounds for the future? We know we are healing past wounds and our ancestral DNA, but we forget that we are also creating wounds. And we will continue to create the future wounds until we heal and stop what we are doing and living differently. As humans, I wonder why we would come here to do all this work and have all these experiences and then continue to harm others. That's not healing. It's going to heat up this fall as we see more duality, more crossing the lines with hatred, as more are fighting to hold on to the old paradigms, the masculine energy of war and fight and action. Those are the shadow parts of the masculine energy. There are shadow parts to the feminine energy also. Everything has dark and light. I would ask you to ask your higher self, and don't be afraid to go there and look at it, where you feel you might be right or be in control. Yes, there are times it's right to fight for rights, for our beliefs, to create shift, but not to do it with anger, meanness, bitterness, hatred, or just to be right. This is the time to check those beliefs, check those emotions. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe there's something different. We'll have opportunity to decide how we will be, how we navigate our challenges and our frustrations. We will have time to measure how we were and how we are and how we want to be in the future. Those things that we feel are not right, those places that we continue to be pushed and tugged, those places that we feel unheard or dismissed. Lastly, I want to mention Eris. Eris is also a dwarf planet, and it is also retrograde in Aries. And unless you were born before 1926, you have Eris in Aries. Eris takes decades to move through the zodiac signs, about 126 years. So it will not progress into Taurus until 1948. This creates generational impact. The changes triggered by Eris in Aries are not superficial. They cut to the core of your being. You came here willingly at this time, this space, under these planetary influences in these situations to be part of the change and to witness this change. Some of you have memories of the past, and you can either be fighting to keep the past as it was, or you have memories of the past and are fighting to change them, to create a different future. If you feel you are fighting to be clear on what you are actually fighting for, and is it the future you really want? Do you really understand it? This is a time to reassess your values, your beliefs, your aspirations. Everything is pushing us to utilize the feminine energy of grace, of love, of peace, of joy, of happiness. And sometimes by embracing radical change and becoming more aligned with your authentic self, it means letting go of some of those fights that you've held on to so tightly before. Your core essence is vibrationally love, and it's love-based. And your role is to bring light and love to those situations that lack it. It is to realize that all and everything has shadow, but all and everything is shiftable or correctable. There can be balance. Even in masculine and feminine, there is shadow to both, and there is light required to both. Where you find yourself in a situation where there is not balance, ask. Some questions that might be helpful to ask is, why might I find myself here? Why might I have this response to this situation? What needs to shift within me? I know you'll be tempted to try to shift another, but you only have the power to shift yourself. If you feel misaligned, what is to shift within you? Where might you be participating in a collective consciousness? Where might you be either trying to attempt to hold on to the past or help humanity move to the future? Choose moving to the future. And if you're not sure, ask your teachers and helpers of the universe to show you how to move to and through the shift for the future. And by all means, check facts and understand you create shift when you shift. You respond to changes within you internally when there is an external shift. You also will be driven to move away from something that's not aligned with you. 2024 is an 8 year. We take 2 plus 2 plus 4 is equal to 8. The number 8 is about infinity. It's about opportunities. It's about abundance. And it's about alignment. And boy, are we getting plenty of practices to experience those opportunities of alignment. This could be a really scary time for a lot of people where change maybe doesn't feel good or it's not clear. Trust that the universe is walking us through this process. And if we come back to where we vibrate to the element of love, where we have compassion and caring about those around us, where we feel we can have discussions and open in-depth conversations without bringing in the emotions of hatred, disgust, or fighting, we can move. And if we remember that it wasn't a moment that changed everything, but it was all moments that led up to a moment that you realized a change. It was all moments after a moment that created the outcome. And that is our journey. I invite you to shine your light, to share love out in the world. I offer you peace and joy and love and happiness. I'm Laurie Wondra of Your Life Core, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to Messages from the Universe podcast with Laurie Wondra of Your Life Core. For current events or to schedule a private session with Laurie, please visit yourlifecore.com.